Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I have a guest with me. His name is Azriel. Just a disclaimer, both of us are doing this on a personal basis, and all the opinions mentioned here are our own and not representative of our companies. So Azriel, you're okay with that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so the session is already recorded. Maybe you can start with a quick introduction of yourself.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Azriel. I'm currently a research analyst with the Singapore Police Force. So actually, my day-to-day job, I do a lot on forensic psychology. I study scams and why people fall for scams and how we can actually create interventions and to kind of prevent the public from falling into scams. Previously, I was with MSF as a research assistant. So over there, I did some research on family and some social issues within family. So over there, I helped to collect survey data and do cold calling to members of the public.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm currently in SUSS doing my Masters of Psychology, specializing in organisational psychology. Yeah, that's my intro.
Okay, great. So maybe we'll just jump right in now with you sharing about your experience doing the Bachelor of Psychological Science with the honors at James Cook University. So what do you feel about the program and how has it helped you in your career?
Actually, well, it's actually quite hard because at the very start, right, I always thought that psychology was a very philosophical program. I always thought it's like studying the philosophy of human behavior, like having like a lot of more qualitative discussion about it. But that when I went through the program at JCU, I was actually quite surprised it's so stats heavy and stats focused. Yeah. So and the truth is, I've not always been very strong in mathematics, So yeah, it was quite tough for me. So luckily I did well enough to enter the honors program, and over there I did my research on cognitive psychology. So I had a really fun time, although it was really tough in my opinion. Yeah.
So maybe very quickly, what is cognitive psychology?
Okay, so cognitive psychology is kind of like studying the way we think. Why we think the way we think. So it's a study of the way we think in a sense. Yeah. So so specifically, what I did in my honors here was actually in the theory of embodiment. So basically, in the way that our five senses kind of affects the way we think, and for me, I focus on the sense of touch and how it affects our thinking process. So I actually kind of operationalize it in a forensic context as well, in the context of how our sense of touch can actually affect the way we so-called judge criminal behavior. So yeah, that's all I'll say for that.
Okay. Oh, that's quite interesting. Okay, so I think let's move on now. So you're currently studying oxide, but why? So what interests you in this particular specialization?
Okay, so actually, it kind of really started on my second year in JCU. So in my second year, I was taking the level 3 mods, and one of them is oxide. So the content in there actually it was one of the few mods that I did really well in, at least in my opinion. So and I really enjoyed it. And the more I think of it is that we spend more than 1/3 of our lives, our daily lives working, right? So I kind of want to think, how can psychology actually help make our work less terrible? Yeah, because that's the essence of it, right? How we can actually use psychology to make our workplace more enjoyable, and to some extent, I'm also very interested in doing assessments, how we can actually select the right personnel, what kind of personality traits, predict good employees, and some people also like to do personality traits on how it affects leadership and things like that. So there are many ways, but for me, I'm more interested in how can we use psychology theories and measurements to kind of select good employees.
So is this something aligned with your future career plans? Because I've seen the SRP, the Singapore Psychological Society's website. And then there's this register of registered psychologists, the Singapore Register of Psychologists, and there's only 5 oxide trained people in the list. So is there a career path in Singapore?
Actually, there is, but I think oxide is one of the more interesting ones. Is that unlike a lot of other side positions. For example, if you go on JobStreet, you type clinical psychology. Most of the job titles is just clinical psychologists, right?
Yeah.
But for organizational psychologists, they tend to take a lot of different titles. For example, L&D, managers, business consultants, and things like that. Although what they do specifically can draw a lot of knowledge on psychology, but their titles are actually quite different. So maybe for a lot of these people, they don't feel the need to register with the SRP because it's not necessary a criteria in getting the job for oxides. Yeah, so like clinical side, they always say must be SPS registered SRP, but usually for a lot of oxide positions, it's not necessary.
I see.
So since it's a voluntary kind of registration, the SRP, and considering that it's maybe not as necessary as compared to other subdisciplines of psychology, maybe that's why we see very low numbers. Like I know quite a few organizational sites that actually are not registered under SRP.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that will explain because I think there's like a couple of hundred registered psychologists, and I only found 5 listed there.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, how do you think that studying oxide specifically can help reach your career goals, especially since you mentioned that they may have other job titles like L&D or business consultant. So I guess you might be actually competing with people who are actually coming from a HR background, maybe a master's of science in learning and development or HR. Yeah.
Yeah. So in my opinion, at least, I feel that many of these degrees focus on the process of things and never really like deep dive into the psychology of the human mind, like how we actually can how we actually think, in different contexts. So for me, I'm personally very interested in the psychometrics component. For example, we say we want to use a measurement to select an employee, for example. Sometimes we go through job interviews, they make us do some small surveys, but my thinking is, so how do we actually know these surveys really measure what they are really measuring, and whether these measurements are actually accurate, or do they really purport measure what they really measure? So that is where I'm more interested in that kind of aspect, the psychological assessments for it, and how to develop these assessments, and how to use these assessments in the most practical way that is still scientifically rigorous. Yeah, this is why I choose to do outside rather than just taking, let's say, an MBA or a master's in human resource, things like that.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of interesting because you say you're not really into stats, but I would think that this is a lot of statistics, right?
Yes, exactly. So at the very, very beginning, I still remember in my first year when I took the first test, I really, really struggled. I couldn't really grasp the concept fully. I also didn't really appreciate what it really meant because it kind of like went against what I kind of thought I would be studying. But I think because JC is so stats heavy, right? Overall, I took 4 stats mods, and this is a requirement to graduate. It's not like I have a choice. I took 4 stats mods, and along the way, I really learn more and more, and then I start to appreciate how statistics can really help us make an objective view of the things around us. So yeah, so I slowly start to learn how to appreciate it, and then I slowly started getting a bit more competent at it. I won't say I'm very good, but I think good enough to get the job done. Yeah. So, so I mean, even until now, I'm still learning. Every day is trying to find something new about stats to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. I recall my uni modules on research methods, having to do the testing validity and reliability. I assume that's what you are doing, right? When you say assessments. Yeah.
Yes, correct. So a lot of assessments usually use things like factor analysis, where reliability is one of the most concerned aspect of the research of the assessments. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so so since we're on the topic of assessments and oxide, and you also mentioned how they use this little test to see whether a candidate is suitable for a job. What are your thoughts on the MBTI?
Oh wow! I feel like asking that is like opening a huge chat. Okay, my personal opinion, I don't think the MBTI is good.
Okay.
I think from a psychometric point, my understanding is that there's actually very little support for it, especially for the other for the so-called the 4 areas, maybe less in the introversion and extraversion, but the others not so good. So and from what I see, at least with my current understanding, is that nobody really use the MBTI in a professional context.
Okay.
We use the in clinical they may use the NeoPI. For oxide, some different companies actually create their own measurements. So for example, there's a company called Podium. They make a lot of assessments for in the organizational context as well. So and all of them kind of like rely on the big 5 model of personality. So I've never seen one that rely on MBTI. So I don't think that is good. Yeah.
So this is kind of like the pop psych area already, like MBTI.
Yeah, I would think so. It's made popular because of how easy it looks, I guess. And yeah, because like the MBTI is quite fast to do, right? But if those actual personality tests can take quite a while, 20, 30 minutes, almost 200 questions, that kind. Yeah.
Okay. I think to put it crudely, it's kind of like the astrology of psychology.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we got some background on your experience already, and why you chose to do oxide. So maybe you can move on. You mentioned that you're studying at SUSS now. So why SUSS?
Okay. So I think one of the main reason for me is that because I'm still working and I need to pay the school fees, all this by myself. So currently in currently in Singapore, right, there's only one outside program which is under SUSS, and it's good. I'm glad that it's under SUSS because it allows me to do it part-time. All the classes are at night or on weekends. Okay, so I can still hold a full-time job like I'm doing now, and then when I finish my work, I can go to school. And they start at 7, so that's about usually an hour or so traveling time, which is just nice. And I think historically a lot of the organizational side graduates, they usually go to overseas. For example, I think UK, Australia, and US are some of the more common ones, but it's also way too expensive for me. Yeah, just don't talk about the cost fee. Just the cost of living in some of these places is no way I can afford it. So yeah, SUSS because first it allows me to work full time while also pursuing my goal, and also it's cheaper than the other places. Yeah.
Since SUSS, although for the foreign viewers, it's the Singapore University of Social Sciences. Since SUSS is autonomous university, are you actually able to get any subsidies for this postgrad program over there?
Yeah. So Singaporeans do get a discount. So if you are a foreigner, I think you have to pay more. But actually, to be honest, I'm not sure if foreigners can take the MSite. Because like clinical, there's always a practicum component. So we also have a practicum component. So that there are some limitations if you're not able to work in Singapore.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe you can go and check with the school on whether they accept foreigners for this or not. Yeah.
Okay. But so there's actually subsidies as a local lah.
Yeah. We pay lesser. I mean, for every course in SUSS, Singaporeans tend to pay less.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So you did mention the practicum component. So where would one do the practicum component? Do you have to do it in your place of employment, or is there like a placement coordinator who can help you place you somewhere you might want to work in the future?
Okay, so because it's such a new program, right? I think there's still a lot of things being worked out. So currently, our practicums are usually like projects that some external companies that they will give, and then we'll work on these projects on our free time. So for example, we got some projects that is directly with SUSS itself. So we usually have some like meetings maybe in a weekday afternoon, but then like the actual things that we do, like either like coming out with a new selection process or coming out to study certain HR phenomenon, things like that. Usually we can do all of this at our own free time. So like my team and I, because we do practicums in teams, so like my team and I, we do it like on weekday nights or on weekends. Yeah.
Wow. So how do you cope like this? You mentioned you have lessons on weeknights and on weekends. Okay. So what's the schedule like? Is it like 3 times a week or something?
Okay, so currently, okay, so it depends on how many classes you are taking.
Oh,
So for
okay.
me, I'm only taking 2 modules, which I find is the not too taxing one.
Okay.
Yeah, so for 2 modules, so each semester is split into 2 terms. So each term I'm taking only one module. So only once a week I go to school.
Oh,
Yeah.
once a week. Okay.
Yeah. So which is quite I can manage that lah. So usually like during the school term itself, it is quite busy. So usually after work I will start doing all my assignments, and then sometimes if I got practicum work and things like that, then I will do it. So like during the semester, right? Like my weekends usually is just filled with doing assignments or the projects. Yeah. So so right now we just finished all our exams, all our final uh, assignments for the semester. So now it's a holiday period.
I see. I see. Okay. So you you are doing 2 subjects per semester. So I assume the semester is like a typical 6-month period.
Yes.
So you do 4 subjects a year.
Yes.
But if you're doing 2 subjects and you're only going to school, the uni once a week, so you're doing alternate. So like 1 week is 1 module, 1 subject.
No.
Then okay.
So usually is 1 term just 1 module.
Okay. So there's some it's a bit concentrated. There's some focus there.
Because I plan it that way lah.
Oh, you plan it that way.
Yeah. So I mean there are some people who can do 2 in one term, but that's not me lah. Too hectic.
Yeah, still the balance work also.
Correct.
So, but typically most of your classmates do they plan the schedules like you do?
Yeah, most of us have very similar schedules. Although different students, there's only like 9 of us anyway. So so some I think only a small handful. I think 2 to 4. I'm not very sure how many are doing it full time. The rest of us are all part time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think more or less all of us are in the same class so far lah. Yeah.
Oh, so so the full time and part time students are mixed together, is it?
Yes.
Then even the full time students will have to come for evening lessons.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So for them, yeah. So like the full-time students will also come to class at night, same as us, because our lecturers are actually professionals in the field. They're actually working in the industry. They're not pure academics. They are practitioners. Yeah, they are directors of their own companies and things like that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So, if you are doing it like only 4 a year, how many years will it take for you to complete this?
Okay, because for me, previously I was actually in another program before even the MSci appeared.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was actually in the Masters by Research program. Then when the MSci came out, I immediately applied and transferred. So if I had to start from scratch, I'll take about 4 years.
Oh wow, 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So currently I have only 2.5 years left.
2.5.
I've already completed some of the electives, and the electives can be transferred.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, better than starting from scratch.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So holidays. I mean, you're working, you're studying, and it seems quite intense. So how long are your holiday breaks? Do you still have the opportunity to say, for example, go on a holiday trip, or is it so intense where for the next for the remaining 2.5 years, right, you cannot go on holiday?
So currently, I'll be on holiday. I think the next semester will start end of July. So there is that break in between.
Okay, so that's
1 month plus.
Yeah, so that's quite a decent amount of time still can travel.
Yeah, but when the semester comes itself, it's really very intense. Yeah, so it's good they at least give us a month or so break.
True. So okay, so maybe I'm looking through the SUSS the program structure now, right? So actually the Masters of Psychology has actually a specialization in forensic psych and org psych. So earlier you mentioned you worked in the police force.
Yes.
So how come you didn't choose forensic psych?
Actually, to be honest, I'm just more interested in org psych.
Okay.
As a profession. Forensic psych it's really interesting on its own. But when I weigh my career options and everything, I think outside is the way to go for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Forensic side maybe can only work in the home team, is it?
Not necessary, to be honest. There are private practitioners who do forensic side as well.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah. So I mean, they can also join to academia and things like that. But I just thinking of the long term, 20, 30, 40 years from now, what would I see myself doing? I prefer outside. Yeah.
When it comes to your program, just want to check how the assessments are being delivered. So is there a single exam or are there multiple projects, or is it a mix of both?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll split the answer into two parts. So for the core modules and the specialization modules, there are no exams, but they are all end course projects. So there's one individual assignment, one group assignment, and then one end course project. So the end course project can be either individual or as a group. But usually, even if it's a group end course project, there will most likely always be an individual component as well. For that is what I see for now.
Okay. So maybe you could share a little bit more about any interesting modules you have actually encountered so far.
Yeah, so currently for the specialization modules, I've only completed the selection and assessments and learning and development. So later on, we'll be doing coaching and how to actually so-called be a consultant as well. So those are some of the future modules. So for some of the electives, I took what did I take? Oh, I took a multidisciplinary topic. So basically, it's some issues within the social sciences. So they will mix like things like economics, psychology, and sociology together. And I also took a module on positive psychology. So basically, it's a study on what makes us happy.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, that's a very interesting topic because they also will talk about the role of money in happiness and things like that as well. So yeah, those are very interesting. Yeah. So for the selection and assessment, we basically learn how we can actually use surveys and psychological instruments in the employee selection process. And currently in the L&D, we kind of learn how to do training needs analysis, how we can actually identify, what training solutions can be developed to address a problem a company faced, for example. So yeah, so these are the current things that have taken so far. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe I can start moving the questions towards the experience in SUSS.
Okay.
So you shared a lot about the modules, the subjects, and the curriculum. But as a part-time student, so do you get any support at SUSS?
Yeah, of course. So our head of program, consistently engages us, asking how is our progress? Are we doing fine? They take our feedback because it's a very new course, so still working things out. Yeah, so they really take a lot of our opinions into consideration when they make decisions. So in terms of support, because I think the nature of SUSS is that they got a lot of students who are working full time and a lot of part time. So they got a lot of I think that the school has a lot of experience in dealing with part time students. So yeah, so far I've never really felt any problem,
All right,
because I'm a part time student.
That sounds good. Yeah, I mean they were designed to focus on the part time students. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens if say due to work you can't come to class? Is there any support for that? Do they record the lectures, or do you just miss it all together? And is there a attendance requirement?
Okay, so they do record the lectures, and the lectures is actually put on our canvas. So that means even if we missed it, or even we attended but just want to review, we can always just go and click on it. And some of the modules they also include the past years recordings as well. Yeah.
Wow,
so
okay.
So sometimes maybe I need different perspective. I actually watch the past years lectures as well. Yeah. So because different teachers got different way of teaching, so it is really helpful in that aspect. I get to hear many teachers teaching the same thing. Yeah. So in terms of attendance requirement, Okay, at some of the modules, especially those elective modules, I think some of them can use the SkillsFuture funding or SSG funding. I'm not very sure which is which, but for those there's a 75% attendance requirement, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I did use it myself, but I never missed a class, so not a problem. Yeah. But in general, they do not really enforce that you must come. No, there was one time I did fall sick, so I just emailed the lecturer saying, I'm sick today, I can't come, so I'll just catch up later on. So usually my classmates are all very helpful. They will like give me a review of what happened in class, what was being taught, and if I need to, I can always just watch the past lectures or the recorded lectures as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this is a very friendly towards the part-time students.
Yes, very.
Yep. Especially some people might work very far away. Imagine you work in the east, travel all the way to Clementi. Yeah.
Even for my workplace, actually, it's not that easy to go. Even though it looks near, but transport-wise, actually quite long. Actually, if you need to take a few times I waited, I think like 20 minutes just for a Grab to come.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're based in the Home Team Academy at the Jalan Bahar?
No. I am at Novena there.
Oh, Novena.
Yeah,
still a town area.
Yeah. But even so, because I think of the timing, you see, because
the timing.
I end work at 6. Yeah.
Everyone also end work at 6.
Everyone also aiming for the Grab, so it's
correct.
hard. But yeah.
Oh yes. So okay, one more thing I'll be interested to ask is the pedagogy. So during actual classroom timing, I assume at a master's level, it's not just pure lectures. There'll be like group discussions and stuff like that.
Yes.
So maybe you could share how the classes are run.
Yeah. Actually, I can honestly tell you probably won't fall asleep because you can't fall asleep at all in class, because we really have a lot of group discussion, role plays, and then like, for example, we can immediately do assessments, then we swap the assessments, our results with each other, and then we can play the role of, as a psychologist, I'm here to interpret the results, and things like that, and like, there's also not really lecture, but sometimes they use facilitation. So we will have group discussion. We'll go up to the whiteboards, or flip charts and things like that, and just like write things down and things like that. So the thing about that is that you need to already know the content beforehand. Right? So they're not going to go, stand there and then tell you, okay, this is something from the undergrad, let's review it. No, that doesn't happen. It's you go in there, they already assume you kind of know all this basic stuff. And you're also expected to do some readings before class as well. Yeah. So they expect you to know all this. And then when you go into the lecture itself, it's really all these facilitation, group discussions, and role play. Yeah. So that is the way they teach, at least in the M-Site class.
Yeah, sounds familiar. It's similar to what I did last time. It's the flip classroom kind of thing, and then kind of like teach each other.
Yes.
Yeah, have to really come prepared.
Yeah, really have to come prepared. Yeah, because it's also quite fast paced. Because there's a lot of things. For example, they can cover 1 to 2 chapters of the textbook in that 3 hours.
Oh wow!
Okay. So yeah, it's quite fast.
So each class will be 3 hours only.
Yeah. Although quite often we will run over time.
Oh, run over time.
Wow, it's good because.
So if you run over time, then I assume you start at 7 in the evening.
Yeah.
So that means you go past 10.
Yeah, correct. Okay. But it's good. I think it's not the lecturers fault or anything. It's actually our fault because sometimes we ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes because one question, you get an answer, then after that it starts to spiral on into more questions. Then sometimes it ends at like 10:30 or something. Yeah.
Okay, better than a quiet classroom. Yes. Then no engagement.
Yes, one be quiet.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so but then if that's the case, right? That means if you actually miss classes, you actually miss out quite a bit because you won't be involved in the group discussion and the facilitation.
Yeah. The good thing is like we always take pictures of the flip charts and everything. So after like that one time I was sick, my classmate gave me a short review before class what was done the week before and things like that. So I got up to speed quite fast. Yeah.
That's great. So the community within the class, the modules and the subjects is actually quite good. It's quite interactive and supportive.
Yeah, it's quite supportive because, it's really not competitive, like in a sense that there's no bell curve. It's really everybody just supporting each other and helping each other.
Okay. Yeah. That's great to hear. All right, so I think that's all the questions I have for you, Azriel. Thanks for taking the time to share your experiences, especially about Oxide and the time in the program at SUSS. Right. Any last words for us?
No, not really.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for watching till the end of the video. If you found value in this content, please help me out by liking the video. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications as well.